Today we bring to an interview with Dr. Rita Chaudhary. Dr. Rita Chaudhary is an Indian poet, novelist, activist and Sahitya Akademi Award recipient in the world of Assamese literature. She has been an associate professor in Cotton College, Guwahati, Assam in the Department of Political Science. She is the former director of the National Book Trust of India. Talking to her is Sharmila Goswami.
Today in our program Northeast Diary, we have with us a multifaceted personality, an established poet, a noted Assamese writer and recipient of the Sahitya Akademi Award in the world of Assamese literature. She is also the former director of the National Book Trust of India. Yes, she is Dr. Rita Chaudhary. Dr. Chaudhary, I extend a very warm welcome to you in our show Northeast Diary. Dr. Chaudhary, as you said earlier in an interview, that you became a writer by accident after winning the Assam Sahitya Sabha competition as a student activist. Tell us more about this.
It is really an accident that I wrote a novel. Before that, I did not write any prose, any like a short story or whatever. But during Assam movement, when I was absconding, I came to know about competition organized by Assam Sahitya Sabha. The theme was Assam movement. So as I was a part of the Assam movement, I have a direct experience of the movement. So I thought I should write. And I started writing. But it was a very difficult time. And I had to go from one place to another to avoid the police raid and arrest. During that period, I wrote the novel and sent it to Assam Sahitya Sabha. After that, I was arrested and put in Dibrugarh jail. The result was announced and I got the first prize. And suddenly, I become a novelist. That is the beginning.
How was the feeling?
See, I was in jail and it was a kind of struggle for survival also. So I did not think much about the award or the book. Only I thought that now I have something more added to my identity. So now when I go out, people will not only know me as an activist of the Assam movement, but also as a writer.
So as you said, you became a writer by accident.
Yeah.
Then when did serious writing start?
I wrote the novel. Then I was shifted to Guwahati jail. I was released from there. Then a new struggle began to support my family, to study. I had many cases imposed on me. So it was a very difficult period.
From Dibrugarh, you were shifted to Guwahati jail.
Actually, I was arrested in Guwahati and I was put in a lockup for 7 days in Panbazar Thana. Then I was sent to judicial custody and Guwahati jail. From there, I was shifted to Dibrugarh jail. After that, I had two purposes in my life. One is to support my family, which suffered a lot for my participation in the struggle. And secondly, to serve my community as a participant of the movement. So I did not find much time to think about writing, and it was not my priority that time. I wrote few stories, short stories, but
after you won the prize,
because the newspapers started, requesting me to write for their newspapers. So I wrote a few things, but not that seriously, because it was a different time of struggle. Then I got married and my co-activist became a minister. And
your husband?
Yes.
He was also an activist?
Yes, he was a general secretary of AJYCP, a youth organization. He was a leader. He became a minister and I married to a minister. I got a new identity, and actually this is the only identity I had that time, wife of a minister, because the activism was the past. So that was a period of confusion. From movement, I entered into a different world of politics. This politics is different. Movement is different. So that experience, it was in a way very devastating. And I was very confused, frustrated, sad. I was angry. And I have many questions, dilemmas. So it took almost 10 years.
You won the Assam Sahitya Sabha competition prize in 1981.
Yes.
And then there was this gap of 10 years.
Almost 10 years, because I tried to write a book. Actually, I wrote a novel in 88, but it was in a very bad shape. It was not a good novel because I could not devote, I could not concentrate, could not focus. Then I realized that this is not my life. I wanted to go back to those people, to my own people, where actually I belong to, my society. But there was a big barrier between them and my present position because they have started looking at me as a wife of a minister only. So I was not somewhere accepted. I was not welcome. It was a period of not only confusion but helplessness also. Then I realized I have a power with me or a way with me. That is my pen, which no one can take away from me. And to write, I don't have to depend on anybody. It is not costly. I don't need any money to write, and my pen cannot be controlled. So I decided to change my way of life. Purpose was same, to serve my community that time. And again I started writing. It was very difficult at the beginning because I could not write. It was very frustrating. But slowly I earned that capacity to, or the control over the craft to write, but very slow. I was barren for 9 years. So that was not a creative period for me also. My daughter was born. And it was actually the beginning of creativity. In 95, she was born. And actually from 95, I started thinking very seriously about this because I had a purpose. My daughter, I have to do something so that I can guide her. At the same time, I can show her a real way to live a real life, a good life. And so my purpose became a bigger one. From 1999, it was a continuous journey, writing. Then my son was born. But parallelly, now I become a multitasker. I earned the capacity to work like that, to juggle. My only work was to look after my children, to write, to earn, and to build my own identity. I did my PhD. I wrote many novels, and I was living in seclusion in a way. I had no direct connection with the society. I had to be very choosy and I had to be very careful so that no one can control my pen. I could not go to any publisher or any editor of any newspaper to request for publishing my novel, or whenever I get any request, then only I would write. So slowly again, people started accepting me. Slowly I became again popular as a novelist. It is a very long journey, and now I am here.
That was so well expressed. The journey. It was not easy. It took a long time for you to blossom and evolve as a writer.
It was difficult, but
you chose your goal and you got it too.
Yes.
You received the Sahitya Academy Award for your book, Deo Lang Kui. Tell us something about this book. The protagonist of the book, a woman, is a very strong character. I want to know, while you were growing up, did you experience personally or socially the plight and deprivation of the women of Assam and the Northeast in general? What is the position of women in the society of the Northeast?
I was born in Arunachal. So my first experience about the position of women is the Arunachali society, Arunachali women. I have seen the tribal society, the Arunachali societies, of Adis and Tagins and Galongs. Then I went to another hilly area called Haflang in Assam. It's a North Kasar district. There I saw two different societies. One is the local tribals, and another is a very close society of officers in the SSB training center, where I saw my father giving training to the Mukti Bahini people in the Bangladesh war. So there I saw group of women, the officer's wife. So that is another experience of position of a woman. Then I came to again Arunachal. After that to Margherita, that's Upper Assam. Now I have actually entered into the Assamese society. Then came the Assam movement. So from Gwalpara to Dhubri to Upper Assam to Sadia, everywhere, I had to travel. I have to meet many people. So I had a greater experience of the composite Assamese society. Greater Assamese society is a composite identity. We have many ethnic tribes. There's the so-called Aryan and non-Aryan streams, mixing of two streams. People migrated to Assam from east, from China side, from Burma side, and from Bengal side, from UP and Bihar. So it is a mixing ground of many ethnicity or many communities. It is a multi-ethnic, multicultural society, but there is a stream. It's a Brahmaputra. But there is a trade of somewhere. This trade is the language, is an Assamese language. This language was used mainly to communicate with, mainly in the barter system, when people meet in the marketplaces to communicate politically or socially. And another thread is the Indian culture, like Mahabharata, especially Mahabharata. We have characters like Hirimba, we have characters like Bhagadatta, Narakasura, so many characters.
Mahabharata is very popular in the Northeast.
And we have connections, cultural connections, like in Manipur, Ulupi and Chitrangada they were wife of Arjuna. Hirimba was wife of Bhima. Bhagadatta was king of Kamrup. He took part in the Kurukshetra war. So we have that kind of connection. Krishna married Rukmini from Assam. Krishna's grandson married the princess of King Bana. So we have that kind of cultural connections. So this is the bigger picture. So two different type of position of women. One is a tribal society, where women are more empowered, more free. And in this Aryan kind of society, there was patriarchy. Patriarchy was there everywhere. That is, when I wrote Devlankhui, I tried to explore these aspects also. But my main focus was the peaceful coexistence of different tribes and how to live peacefully through negotiation, to understanding, through friendship. When I was writing that novel, Assam was going through a turmoil of ethnic clashes and bloodshed and all. So I tried to find out how to live peacefully, leaving aside all our conflicts, our misunderstanding or whatever.
What is the position of women now?
When I was a girl, my experience about the position of women was different. Just started learning about this because I am not belong to an ethnic community. I am a Kayastha. We have migrated from Kannauj.
Okay.
So my forefathers, they came from there. We Kayasthas, the Shankardevas, they are our forefathers. So, but as my father was in Arunachal, he was exposed to a very, very liberal kind of society.
Tribal society, you mean?
Tribal society, and it was a pan-Indian society because he was a political officer and a guerrilla trainer. So we were brought up in a cosmopolitan environment. So position of women, if we compare with the other parts of India, we are in a better position.
In the Northeast?
Yes, but patriarchy is there. My personal experience has given me the first-hand experience or idea about what patriarchy is. So if you read my books, you can find this patriarchy in my novels. And always I try to find a way how to empower ourselves or how to survive within this environment, or when the patriarchal system tries to kill you, destroy you, destroy your identity, uproot you from one identity to another, how to survive, how to be yourself. In my novels, I try to find those different ways. See, I write purposefully.
You have talked about the empowerment of women,
yes,
as you were just saying just now.
Yeah.
And you have also said that the empowerment of women comes from one thing, and that is self-respect. Not only for the woman, also for the man.
For a man.
Please talk about this. How can one develop self-respect if one is lacking in that area?
First, you have to understand what is self-respect. You have to respect yourself. When you respect yourself, you will not compromise. If I respect myself, I'll protect my identity. I will not do those things which may weaken my own position, my identity, my strength. It begins from self-respect, and I don't talk about womanhood. I talk about humanity. I'm a human being. I don't treat myself as a woman. I am a person. I am not limited to a sexual organ. My identity is not limited to an organ. My identity is as a whole, my entire body and soul, with my own philosophy, my way of life, my perspective, my philosophy. It is me. So I have to protect that me from destructive forces of the society and the patriarchy. For every person, not only the woman, I want to tell the man also, you are not a man. You are not limited to a sexual identity. You are a human being. You are a complete person. So you live and evolve fully as a human being. And I tried to evolve myself that way. When I was writing and I was evolving also, I was trying to correct myself. I tried to improve myself. I trying to add more strength to my existence. So it was parallelly two things going on. One is my own empowerment and another is to write, and through my writing to send some, not messages actually, I am not that great, but to send some ideas about humanity, life, about identity, about self-respect, empowerment, all these things.
Your internationally acclaimed book, Maqam, highlights the plight of the Indian Chinese people living in North Assam in the year 1962. Would you please elaborate on this?
When tea was explored in Assam, British people started tea industry in Assam, and they brought the Chinese indentured laborers to work in the tea gardens of Assam. And they were indentured laborers. They did not bring their family with them. So they married local maidens and settled and established a new society. There is a mixing of Indian indentured laborers, because British brought many indentured laborers from different parts of poverty-stricken British India. There is mingling with those laborers also. They married local girls, and it became a new society which we call Assamese Chinese. They have their own dialect. There's a mixing of Hindustani, Assamia, and the different languages of the indentured laborers from Orissa, from different parts of India. So it's a mixing of different languages. So they have their own dialect, they have their own culture, they maintain their clan identity, they retain their Chinese name. So they have a different identity. But when in 1962 Indian War, the people of Assam, the Indian Chinese living in different Chinatowns, or which we call Chinapatti, small Chinatowns in different parts of Assam, mainly in adjacent areas of the tea gardens, they came under the surveillance of the Indian government. Suddenly, in the last day of the war, they were arrested. They were told that you are not safe here because people are very angry. We are shifting you to a safer place for a few days. Don't take anything with you. Take only papers and you will come back and you will get everything as it is. So they came with their families, their young children, pregnant women, old, everybody. They were put in a cow shed in Makum, in Upper Assam, in jails, different jails in Assam. And most of them were put in a closed train and sent to Deoli, Rajasthan. There is a big internment camp. And from that internment camp, many of them were sent back to China after almost 150 years. So in this process, families were divided. Husband left for China, they were sent back to China. Wife left behind. Parents went to China, children left behind. So there is a division of family. After 6 years of imprisonment in the internment camp, some of them, the leftover Chinese, were told by Indian government that you can go back now in Assam and now you can live there. Then when they returned, they found that all their properties were auctioned. It was suffering and suffering. And people who went to China, they also suffered there because they did not look Chinese, because the mixing of different community. So in China also they were treated as outsider. The government of China took some agricultural land and gave it to these people came from India. So local people were not that happy, a very difficult situation because they were from India. So China was a communist country and they came from a capitalist one. So it was a difficult time. So I tried to cover everything in this novel. I went to Hong Kong and China, met those internees, deportees, people living in different parts of the world.
You also made a documentary on this.
Yes, I tried to write. It became a mission for me because I have seen the real pain of, uprooting from your own soil, your own motherland. And when you feel that you are unwanted, I have seen that pain. They still call India as their Janam Jaga. They still dance in Indian music every year, celebrating India Day.
Did you meet them?
Yes.
You went to China?
Most of them are living in Hong Kong, overseas Chinese society. Some are living in Toronto. Some are living in different parts, but mainly...
But they have maintained their Indian links.
Yes. See, new generations they don't understand that way. But people who were young children that time, in class 3, 4, now they are grown up, old. But still they speak in Hindi, they drink milk tea, they bring from Indian market betel nut, they wear salwar kurta, saris, and all the colorful bangles.
Wherever they are living.
Yes, they enjoy in the year. They dance, they sing Hindi songs, and they watch Indian films. So they are still connected, and they cannot uproot their soul from India. So I wanted to tell this, that they are not Chinese, they are our own people.
As you have said earlier, you are a socially committed writer. What are the social issues close to your heart that you would like to write about?
My journey began as a nationalist. Time is a teacher. We learn from our experiences. We realize what life is, and with time we mature. Our perspective also, there is a change in our perspective. Then there is a shift from nationalism. Still I am a proud Assamese. I'm a proud Northeasterner. I'm a proud Indian. But finally, I am a human being. I am a humanist. So this is a big transformation of my life, that I have become a humanist finally. So as a humanist, I worship nature. Whenever I'm confused, I look at nature. I treat the nature as my mother. And I want to convey this message. If you want to live, we have to be with the mother nature as a good child. Another one is that there are many people, especially women, who are suffering silently for different reasons. They could not evolve or could not bloom, could not follow their own life or own wishes, and who are at the verge of quitting life or surrendering. So I want to write in such a way that when people read my book, they at least get some encouragement to live, to go on living in true sense. They get strength, they get courage. And in the present period, the world is going through a very difficult phase of isolation. And we all know how we are suffering because of this in the technocentric life. So I'm very much concerned about this mental status or the mental position of the new generation people especially. And I also write for them. It is not that these are the two purposes. I take up many issues of society, like throw away children, like terrorism. So I take up an issue and go deep down, explore, do research and write. So these are basic issues I keep with my life. Mainly love, humanity, nature, friendship, the basics of life which give you the strength or the proper environment to live and to bloom to the fullest.
So beautifully said. In the literary journey of your life, what are you planning to write now, or what you have written recently?
Well, I have written a book that has been published January this year. It is my first non-fiction. It's kind of a memoir, but not exactly a memoir. It was about my experience when I was absconding and when I was writing the novel, how I wrote the novel, and how the Assam movement started, what we learned, what we heard, how people motivated us, the leaders motivated us, what are the reasons behind our Assam movement. I tried to depict it from the perspective of a very young girl. I was 20 years old that time. So what I saw, I thought, I heard, and I realized or I experienced, I tried to write. I tried to write about my jail experience. Oh, so many things are there. This is my first book, and I wrote about the grouping or the minority politics of Assam, how people from Bengal migrated to Assam, and how these migrated people took part in politics of Assam, about the partition of India, what was the position of Assam that time. So I tried to write a few things, just this is an outline. My main purpose is to give voice to the voiceless who cannot speak. A river cannot speak, a hill cannot speak, a tree cannot speak, deprived people cannot speak. So I have to write for them. So mainly I'm writing about a group of people who were forcibly displaced. It's a very tragic story. I don't want to tell about this now. It may come this year or maybe next year, but it is about displacement. So this is I am working on right now. There are a few things which, if time allows me, I have a few plans in my mind. I don't know whether I will be able to write these books or not, but I'll definitely try.
Dr. Chaudhary, it was wonderful talking to you. Thank you so much for coming to our studio, giving us your valuable time and sharing your inspiring thoughts with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You were just listening to an interview with Dr. Rita Chaudhary. Dr. Rita Chaudhary is an Indian poet, novelist, activist, and Sahitya Academy Award recipient in the world of Assamese literature. She has been an associate professor in Cotton College, Guwahati, Assam, in the Department of Political Science. She is the former director of the National Book Trust of India. Talking to her was Sharmila Goswami. This program was brought to you by the News Services Division of All India Radio.